Okay, first I'd like to welcome everybody here today that's actually here physically in the Performing Arts Center with us, but we'd also like to thank your fellow classmates who are in the classrooms watching this being live streamed. Welcome everybody, and want to give special thanks to Dr. Dozier for arranging this presentation, and I don't want to take anybody's time here. They have a very important message, so I'm just going to introduce the panel. Chief Judge Andrew Gleason, Judge Dan Emge, Judge Heinz Rudolph, Judge John O'Gara, and Judge Chris Coker. Give them a mighty maroon welcome, and then I'm going to turn it over to Judge Heinz Rudolph.
Thanks, Principal Mertens. Good morning. How's Belleville West doing? Good. We're really excited to be here to give this presentation to you here today. The worries of the World Wide Web. We know that the internet is so important to you in your daily lives, and what we are here for today is just to talk to you a little bit from our world inside the courtroom, some of the legal pitfalls that we see. And so we hope when you come out of here that you have some additional tools that you can deal with the internet. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Judge Andrew Gleason.
Good morning, everybody. You know, I knew I should have been in the plays in high school, and then I would have known what these bright lights were. That's my very first time in these bright lights, and I can't see a thing. I wish I could see all of you. But thank you for letting us into your school day today. I'm just going to make a couple of brief remarks because we're going to have the program, and we're kind of on a tight time schedule. You know, the first thing I want to say to you guys and girls is that, you know, you live in the greatest country that civilization has ever known. And whether you know this or not, you as a group of citizens enjoy the greatest set of rights and freedoms that any group of citizens that the world has ever known. And so we're here this morning to emphasize that to you because we understand, you know, 40 years ago I graduated from high school, so I was in those seats that you're in. And we understand that you have dreams and aspirations of what you want to do in and with your life. And we're here to tell you that we want you to succeed at that. We want you to have the courage to pick up and lift up each other as you go through this journey of life. When I'm at my 40th reunion, those people, much like those in this room with all of you, are some of the most important people that I have in my life. They've been my friends almost my entire life. And that's the experience you're going to have. And so when we talk about this bullying and the way that people treat each other and some of the issues and perhaps pitfalls that you may face, what we're here to tell you is that you, with these freedoms and these rights that you have choices. You can be that courageous student that lifts up their fellow classmate. You can be the one that says, hey, that's not right. You shouldn't do that to a fellow human being. We care about each other here at Belleville West. We want each other, as we go through this journey of life, to have the absolute best experience that we can have. That's what this is all about. That's why we're here. That's why we're so excited to be a part of your school day today. So thanks, and here we go. Judge O'Gara.
Well, again, good morning, and thank you for having us here. You do have that power right now. You have that tremendous power. I noticed coming into the school, above the doors on the way out is the issue of bullying. And the reason why it's such an issue, and the reason why we're here today, is the Illinois Judges Association put this program together because we were starting to see way too many cases where people your age and younger were getting into a whole lot of trouble either texting or using the internet inappropriately. So we're here today to maybe try to stop this into the future, to talk and maybe reach just one of you here today. One of the things that we realize from studies is that with bullying, people that are bullied, and particularly bullied because of your access to social internet issues, because you're surrounded by it, people that are bullied often turn to violence. Sometimes that violence is against themselves. You will see stories at the end of this presentation today of young men and women your age who turned to violence and couldn't take it upon themselves. Sometimes that violence is turned to your fellow classmates. We see this, and unfortunately you are that generation that has to live through the very real threat of school violence. That's why the bullying issue is important. That's why we're here today. One of the first things we're going to want to show you today is a video that has been viewed, I believe, several million times at this point. It was produced by a young man who was the victim of being bullied, and I hope you will enjoy the video.
We all knew what was going on. We knew about the beatings, and we knew who was doing it.
We knew who locked him in a cupboard, and we know who sent him really bad tweets and messages.
But I think we all expected somebody else to do something about it.
I wish I could apologize to him now.
I would never have bullied him, but if you're not part of the solution, you could still be part of the problem.
I think I'm being bullied right now, but I can't be sure. There's one kid in particular who tries to make me feel inferior in every way he knows how.
He sometimes throws stuff at me, flicks me in the head, punches me, calls me ugly and stupid. He tells me he would beat me up if I ever fought back.
It's like his daily mission, and that's just in school.
On the way home on the bus, I get very bad text messages, and I'm embarrassed to show them to my parents.
It is my daily mission just to get through the day. It makes my world very small because that is now my sole focus, just surviving. Everything else has fallen by the wayside. It is very lonely.
What would I do with my trash and I just put it in your mouth?
One time, last year when I was in 5th grade, there was a new girl in our class.
Everybody made fun of her just because she looked a bit different and had a different accent to us.
One day after school, I was walking to my next class with the new girl. And then my other friend saw her and was like,
Ew, are you hanging out with her? She is cross-eyed and you might get sick of something.
I felt so bad for her because they made her cry in the corridor.
The worst part of my school day is lunch. Some days I can sit wherever I want, but then without any reason, I'm told I need to go find another table.
They say go sit at the loser's table or go sit with the ugly. Not knowing is the worst. Not knowing who to sit with in lunch or on the bus, it changes every day.
They constantly abuse me, both physically and emotionally.
When I get home from school, I go to my room and cry as I get more alerts on my phone about the things they are saying.
Now a kid from my same grade is making up rumors about me on the internet.
Some of my other friends think I'm a bad person because of what they're reading on Facebook.
Fatty, stupid, hippo, whale,
Hippo,
nerd,
whale,
useless,
useless,
die,
die,
loner, psycho, lame, dork, and a lot worse. I want to tweet, but the threats just scare me. My phone now scares me. School scares me. The bullies are faceless. Help!
Wait, focus on my face.
You have to believe that good people who are willing to help you are around. You just have to find them.
One afternoon, on the way back to my locker, I noticed this kid getting booked in the hallway. His stuff went everywhere, and I could tell he was humiliated and upset. Although I didn't know him, I went back and helped him pick up his stuff.
I felt really grateful and said that we should hang out.
The hallways are a cool place in school. I have fun and meet up with friends. But there's these shady kids who hang out in corners. One day, I was walking into
Class and they tripped me up into the class. My books flew everywhere
and the whole class was laughing.
Someone I thought was in my math class came over and picked up my books, took them to my desk.
It was a very cool thing to do. Wouldn't it be awesome if everyone was like that?
Hey man, what'd you get on that test? I bet you did amazing. I did terrible. You should really tutor me. High five! Yeah!
Now my tweets and Snapchats look like awesome,
Dude, friend, pal, amigo, cool, football, nice, fun, hang out, great.
In the morning when I head to my locker, I see my friends that give me a high five. I am sad that I have to share my story, but I know it'll help others in my situation.
In the United States, over 3 million students are victims to bullying every year. Bullying can be physical, sexual, verbal, or emotional. In 2016, it's almost impossible to guess how much of this goes on after school on Facebook, Twitter, Kick, Poke, Whisper, Tumblr, Voxer, Vine, or Instagram. My dad told me that when he was a kid, the bullying would stop at 3:30 every day. I told him it's not like that anymore. They can get you 24/7. They can get you anytime, anywhere. If it's happening to you, you have to tell someone. If you're doing it, just think about this, that it's as easy to be nice as it is to be mean, and manners and respect cost nothing. Our school years are short, but the days can seem forever if it's happening to you.
Well, we're here, of course, understanding that bullying is part of this, but we're here, of course, today to talk to you about the internet, the old-fashioned name, the World Wide Web, right? And it's all throughout the world. So we know that whatever we do, whatever footprint we leave, whatever social media footprint we leave, whatever we do can go throughout the world. Now, there is a special word that we use at the courthouse for any text that you send, any email you send, anything at all that you do on social media. That word begins with the letter E. Does anyone have a guess as to what that word is? Evidence. Everything you do, think about it this way. Every time you send a text, every time you post anything, it's evidence. And you know what else? It's permanent, and it goes on, and we can find it. You are not going to hide it. It can't be done away with. There's this thing called the Wayback Machine. Anybody hear of this website? You can actually, they take a picture of the internet every day. They can go back in time and try to find things that you may have attempted to delete. They can find, the FBI has forensic experts that look things up on your phones, your computers, and whatever device you're using. Things don't go away, they're permanent. And you can't erase them. And they go throughout the world. We're here to tell you today a little bit about how Illinois law might apply to what kind of trouble you might get yourself into if you don't think that everything you do is evidence.
New details on the arrest of those 2 girls charged with using Facebook to taunt and bully their 12-year-old schoolmate until she killed herself. Police are now looking into charging their parents, too. And ABC's Matt Cubman has the latest on the case from Bartow, Florida. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. Those girls just 14 and 12 years old. Now, that 14-year-old is waking up in this mosquito-infested jail this morning. She'll be here for another 9 days until she's arraigned, locked up by a sheriff who now says he's investigating her parents.
This morning, a community is reeling from the failure to prevent the suicide of what police say was a bullied 12-year-old girl, Rebecca Sedgwick.
Look at the lights.
2 girls, 14 and 12 years old, arrested, charged with felony aggravated stalking.
Notice the age of those 2 girls, 12 and 14. That's your age and even younger. Our point by this is kids can even kids that are 12 and 14 can get in trouble. You can be charged with a criminal offense for this type of behavior. Your age is not going to protect you. There is such a thing called the St. Clair County Juvenile Detention Center. You can be held there. It's like a jail for juveniles. There's also such a thing called the Juvenile Department of Justice of the state of Illinois. It's essentially a prison for juveniles, for people under 18. And you can be held there. If you're sentenced there, you could be held there for an indeterminate period of time, but you have to be released before you're 21. So you can be held there if you're 14 or 15 until you're 21 years old. That's a long time. So there is consequences for this type of behavior, even for juvenile offenders. As Judge O'Gara said earlier, the other thing we want to stress to you is this communication you send over the internet via social media is not private. The whole world has access to it. And again, criminal charges can result for this kind of specific behavior. So these types of words can be threatening or can result in criminal charges. Words that are deemed to be harassing, bullying, or threatening or intimidating. And it doesn't matter. Read this text message. You effed up this time. Dude, chill. You are dead. It doesn't matter what the original sender of the message, the one that said you are dead, it doesn't matter what they think those words mean. What matters is what the receiver, the guy that said, dude, chill, what matters is what a reasonable person in his or her shoes believes that message means. That's what the legal standard is for determining whether a crime's been committed in this instance or not. So think about it. If you received a text message that said, you are dead, what would you think? Would you think that's a serious threat? Yeah, you wouldn't take it lightly. There's no context behind those words. You can't tell from those words whether the person that sent it was kidding, joking, laughing, whatever. You can't tell. So if you got this, you would take that seriously. You would think that really is a threat.
One of the weird phenomena that we're starting to see in cases, and it's going on throughout our circuit, are people that set up aggravated battery. They're setting up fights and they're videoing them on their phones. They're egging people on to do this, then taking video of it and posting it online. Now, when you're doing that, you're as accountable as the people that are in the fight. There was a case in Clinton County a few years ago where there was a fight. They'd been drinking all night right before their graduation, unfortunately, from high school. There was a fight. There was one punch thrown that killed the other person in the fight. If you hit a person in the right spot with the right force, you can take their life and end up in, one of them ended up in juvenile court, one of them ended up in the detention center, right? Which isn't mosquito infested, but Judge Coker, you've been to the detention center.
Yeah, the thing I always like to point, has anyone here toured the county jail? I see some of you raising your hands, I can see. One of the things that I didn't realize at the juvenile center and the jail is the food. So it's bad enough that you're in there and it smells and you're locked up with some crazy people, but in order to accommodate all the different religions, they can only make one thing, and it's turkey loaf. And does anyone here have any baby brothers and sisters? Yeah? You ever changed their diaper? That's about what it looks like. And it comes out in a roll, and if they may say we're having steak tonight, it's turkey loaf. They may say it's hamburger, they might put a bun on it, but it's turkey loaf. And it smells so badly, most people when they first go in won't eat it for days. In fact, if you saw the Scared Straight that had the county jail, the producers of that took back some of that turkey loaf to Hollywood, and they have a worst food in the nation contest. We won. I
guess that's something to be proud of unless you have to eat it, right? let's talk about underage drinking posts, okay? If you're dumb enough to do this, number one, think about it this way. If you're dumb enough to post a picture of yourself drinking a beer or doing a bong hit or whatever dumb thing you might be thinking of doing, now that stays permanently on the internet, right? We can get a hold of it. And let's fast forward, you're applying to college, you're hoping for a scholarship, and the school realizes that you are stupid enough to put social videos of yourself out there doing things that are illegal. Okay? Your chances aren't good then in getting that scholarship. Potential employer, they can look back and see that, you're dumb enough to post pictures of yourself on social media. Judge MG, can you tell us about a case that you were familiar with?
So it doesn't even have to be that you're dumb enough to post pictures of yourself. I'm from a small town in Washington County. Nashville is the town that I'm the judge in. And we've got a high school there that's got about 600 kids in it. Our whole town could fit in this school. It's not very big. But there was a party about 3 or 4 years ago during the football season, and it was a bonfire type party outside, and there were kids there, and they were drinking beer. And some of the kids were football players. And there was a group of football players sitting around drinking beer, and somebody that was at the party walked by them and took a picture and posted it to their Facebook account of these football players drinking beer. Now, some of you may be athletes in this room. Is it against school policy to drink and use drugs? Yeah. So the school athletic director saw this Facebook post and suspended the boys that were the football players for 4 or so games the rest of the football season. So those kind of things can result. And remember, those boys didn't post that. Somebody else that was at the party took the picture and posted it. So everything you do, you've got to be aware that somebody may be videoing you doing it or taking a picture of you doing it. So that's why you can't do anything stupid, because you never know who's watching.
This next portion with child pornography, this unfortunately is really becoming a real problem, not only in this area, but just all throughout the state. And what we're finding this is the scenario I'll give to you. So we were actually at a school, Judge O'Gara and I, and we were about to present, and an instructor came up to us, and this was the scenario. Boy's walking down the hallway, has his phone, gets a picture from his girlfriend, and it's a lewd photo. And you know what I'm talking about in terms of a lewd photo. Guy walks next to him, sees the phone, screenshots it, and then apparently went to the cafeteria, had AirDrop on, and everybody that had that got that photograph. And what we're here to tell you is that picture on that phone is child pornography. That's a felony. And if you take that picture and you send that off, that's what we're referring to as distribution of child pornography. And throughout this presentation, we'll explain to you the legal ramifications of sending out that photo.
Smack again. Smack him again. There was physical abuse and there were verbal attacks in the lengthy video posted live onto a woman's Facebook account on Tuesday. At times, the captors mentioned the incoming president.
This case was out of Cook County. The girl that set this up, the girl that invited the guy over there who got beat up and tortured for about 4 hours, she took a plea deal last spring in Cook County and got 8 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections, 8 years in prison. The people that were beating on this guy and harming him during this are now looking at probably 6 to maybe as much as 60 years in prison for this. Notice they put it on Facebook Live. They probably figured, oh, it'll just go away. It's just going to be broadcast and done. It became evidence.
This next slide is one of my favorites. It wasn't lost on us that when we were showing you that video clip and they were putting up the various apps, you were laughing. And the reason why you were laughing, this program was actually designed in January of 2017. And already many of the areas that where the kids were going at that time, you don't go there anymore. And so who here does not have a phone? Yeah, right. Maybe 2 people. Who uses an iPad on a daily basis here? Yeah, raise them. Desktop computer, you old like me, still use a desktop? Okay. How about laptops? Absolutely. Come on, raise them. You're not under oath. You use them. What about a gaming system? Absolutely. Every day. What is it, Fortnite or whatever? So here they are. Who uses this? What's this? Right. You guys still use that? What's that? Yeah, you've been snapping all morning. This is the one. You guys use Kick? Is that why you guys were laughing? Yeah, we figured. What's that? All right. Who tweeted this morning outside the president? Anybody else? Okay. This is an interesting one. Judge O'Gara always corrects me. Where was this at? Valmeyer. So a little girl, Judge O'Gara and I are presenting in Valmeyer. This pops up, and I say, well, it looks like a calculator. She says, oh, no, Judge Rudolph. That's where I hide photos from Mom and Dad.
This morning, investigators in Colorado are seeking search warrants for phones they confiscated in a school sexting scandal. Police say students in Canyon City collected and exchanged hundreds of nude photos. Secretive apps helped them keep the images hidden from parents and teachers.
When she was betrayed, not by technology, but by an ex-boyfriend who allegedly leaked her risque pictures.
She trusted this person, and then the person ended up showing everyone, not just in the middle school, but also in the high school, and like the whole town knows about it.
So there are no secretive apps, right? This became evidence, and the whole town knows about it. Let's follow it through our court system for a moment, okay? Let me tell you what our main focus is to begin with. I had a case when I was still a lawyer some years ago, small town over near the Indiana border. Guy is out in the woods. A young 16-year-old girl goes back into the house. She and somebody else are hooking up, I guess. The guy goes back in later, and he decides it would be funny to take up-close pictures of her because she's laying there with not a stitch of clothing on. He sends those pictures to his friends. They send them to another set of friends, and then that set of friends goes up to that girl and says, "Are these you?" She had no idea that that went on. So I am here to tell you, and I think every one of these judges would be here to tell you today this as well. Our focus in our courthouse, when we're talking about pictures like this, is primarily and first and foremost with that victim. That girl did not sign up for that or authorize that. But we can watch how this whole thing evolves. It gets sent out, it gets sent to friends, it gets sent to teachers. Her mom and dad knew about it. As that young girl in the other video said, the whole town knew.
Let me jump in here from not just a legal viewpoint, because there are a lot of legal issues and consequences that come from that behavior. But I want you to think about this. Belleville is a small town. What reputation you develop throughout your life is going to be really important to you. When something like this happens, it not only happens to you, but it happens to your mom and your dad and your grandparents and your brothers and your sisters, and to a certain degree and extent to your friends, to those peers that are sitting next to you. So when you engage in that behavior, and it might be something that you didn't intend, unintended consequences of that behavior become something that stick with you. That may be a reputation that, as I said, when you hit your 40th anniversary or your 40th reunion, everybody remembers that person because of some story that occurred like this. So as you're thinking about engaging in that behavior, just think about your reputation. Think about how that's going to impact not only you, but everybody else that you care about and love about in your life.
This is an example of what we were talking about earlier with the harassing words. This is an actual charge out of Kane County, Illinois, up by Chicago, that the defendant knowingly and without legal authority through the use of electronic means used a Samsung tablet to send multiple messages via text message, including on the victim's Facebook account that she was going to kill the victim and go after her family, causing the victim to fear for her life and safety. Again, what matters is what the victim, a reasonable person in the victim's shoes, thinks that threat is. And this threat through electronic means, it's a felony. If you threaten someone through electronic means, it's a felony every time.
What is a felony?
A 16-year-old from Mason High School, described as a straight-A student, is accused of threatening to shoot up the school. WLWT News 5's Christy Davis is leading the way with the hotline that led to the student's arrest.
The high school junior allegedly made the threat via text message, and it was students in that group text who sent out the first alert to Mason High School officials. While the rest of his classmates went to school, this 16-year-old stood in front of a judge, charged with a felony count of inducing panic. The charges stem from a group text sent on Sunday night.
The text messages that were considered threatening had an indication that there was going to be or could be some shooting up of the school.
Mason police did search the student's home, but say they found nothing to indicate that he could have followed through with the alleged threat. Because the threat was made towards a school, this student is being charged with a felony. Reporting from Mason, Christy Davis, WLWT News 5.
In court, the student's attorney said that his client has a 4.0 grade point average, is on student council, tutors kids, and wants to go to an Ivy League school.
We know smart people do stupid things every day. 4.0 grade point average, wants to go to an Ivy League school, tutors kids, and he's on student council. He made a threat. Later on, he said, hey, I don't have any bombs or guns at home. It doesn't matter. We know people do it, and we see it time and time again. Here's a guy that threatened to shoot up the school, and then about an hour later said, I was just kidding. About an hour after that, he and his dad were in jail. This happens close to home. We know this is going on, where people send out threats. They think they may be kidding. This is Cahokia. This just happened last year. Earlier this year. Also in O'Fallon, charged with making threats. It just was in the paper the other day. People are charged with making threats. They have to be taken seriously, and they will be. Who's charged? Whoever sends the message. If you let somebody use your phone, if you're dumb enough to do that, they're going to at least question you. Do you think the other person's going to say, well, I actually did it. Johnny did. It's not Johnny. It's actually me. No, you might be on the hook, so don't let people use your phone. We know there are consequences. There are fines. We could put you on supervision. But Judge Rudolph likes to talk about this. What about the last thing that's on there? Can a judge actually do that?
Absolutely. In terms of sentencing, believe it or not, loss of your phone and computer privileges is part of sentencing. We can ban you from the internet. And how do you say, well, how can you do that? Well, we have a probation officer, someone that monitors your usage on the internet. And if you're found to violate that, then you can get even into more trouble than you're in already. So we know you guys use your phones on a daily basis, and that's one of the provisions that can be done to ban you completely for the internet.
Our next slide also points out a girl was sentenced up in Mattoon to the Juvenile Department of Justice, basically, and an indeterminate term. The judge explained to her, because of the threats you made to the high school, you can be held up until you're 21 if that's what they end up deciding to do. There are consequences.
3 students at a high school in Gurnee are facing charges in a case of sexting and cyberbullying.
Right, they are charged with felony distribution of child pornography, and as Judy Wang reports, if guilty, the charges come with severe ramifications.
It is not over yet. Gurnee police say the 3 boys are not the only ones who did this, and they will likely make more arrests. School administrators sent parents an email about the issue. Parents and students are now wondering just how far this investigation will reach. All of the students involved are freshmen at Warren Township's O'Plaine campus. Some students agree what happened is a crime. Lake County prosecutors charged the 3 boys with felony distribution of child porn. Investigators declined to release specifics, only that it involves the texting of sexually explicit photos of a female classmate and cyberbullying.
Notice the age, freshman. If we go through what could happen here, how is this committed? Well, if you're taking pictures of one another and you're dating and you're in love and you send the picture on to whoever you're dating, well, what happens after you break up? Right? They've got the picture and they can send it to anybody they want. So we're talking about if they Snapchat a picture, you can always create a screenshot of anything because everything is always permanent, right? If you forward the picture of somebody who's under the age of 18 depicted in a lewd manner, naked, lewd, that is child pornography. Those were freshmen in high school charged with child pornography.
Let me add, if you actually are in receipt of that, in possession of that picture, and that person's under 18, regardless of whether you were involved in it, you potentially have possession of child pornography.
What if the person who's in the picture wants you to have it? What if it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship and the female takes a picture of herself and sends it to you and wants you to have it?
It doesn't matter. It's still child pornography. The person who's sending that picture to you is not of the age of consent. They cannot consent to that picture and you having possession of it. It is still possession and potential distribution of child pornography.
Let me add, a lot of times we see, have you ever loaned your phone to somebody? I mentor some kids, and at a mentoring meeting, one of my mentees, I said, where's your phone? And he lent it to people. Guess what people do when they borrow your phone? They go to your pictures and send them to themselves or post them on Facebook from your phone. Happens all the time. Again, that's distribution of child pornography. That's years in prison. One other thing I will add is I have a friend, and she has I think a 14-year-old daughter, and somehow she has a way to mirror whatever Snapchats her daughter gets sent to her. One of her female friends sent out as Judge Rudolph called it, a lewd photo of herself. She's half naked. So I'm out to dinner with her mom in Arizona, and she says, can you believe this? She goes, she got it on Snapchat. She said, so I screenshotted it, which people do all the time. And I said to her, Wendy, she goes, what? She goes, let me show you. And I said, good Lord, no. I said, that's child pornography. She was going to send it to the other girl's mom. I said, if you send it, that's distribution of child pornography.
I've got a story to kind of go along with something Judge Gleason said earlier. So there was a girl that I know from my hometown that was probably in her early 20s at the time, and she took a topless picture of herself and sent it to her boyfriend, just for their private pleasure or whatever. Eventually they broke up, and the boyfriend got mad at her for whatever reason and sent that picture to everyone on his contact list in his phone. One of the people in the contact list happened to be the girl's grandma. So the grandma received a topless picture of her granddaughter, and about half of everybody else in the town did too. And that's what we're talking about with reputation. How embarrassing would that be to you if that was you in that picture? You didn't intend for that picture to get sent to your grandma or everybody else in town. You didn't want that to happen, but it did. These kind of things, this kind of behavior can ruin your reputation for a lifetime. To this day, when I see this girl around town, she's married and has kids now, the first thing I think about is, remember when that picture was circulated involving her? That's going to follow her for the rest of her life. So please be aware of what you do.
Look at these. We've talked about these additional consequences, right? Loss of participation in school activities. We've gone over that. We've already told you about the phone, how that can be taken away, computer. Judge Emsey just talked to you about your reputation. Really, there's very few things that we want to keep sacred, and your reputation, once that gets dinged, it can get dinged. It's tough to get it back. Privacy. You lose privacy when you get charged with criminal offenses. You'll have to go to court to deal with it. Future career choices. Look about those football players in Nashville. Guy screenshots it. They get in trouble. Football season short, 8, 10 games. You miss half the season, it could affect your ability for future scholarships. And importantly, criminal record, right? Can be with you for the rest of your life.
We will take questions afterwards if anybody has time. We know that this is going to go on. We know it's happened. We know it will continue. Our hope is that we've reached one of you. We now want to show you some stories, and it kind of comes full circle back to this issue. What happens when somebody gets so overwhelmed and so bullied that their whole world crashes in on them? You're going to see a lot of young men and women your age, and please, I want you to know this. These are real young men and women. I met one of the moms of one of these young ladies this summer. This is real.
On behalf of the Illinois Judges Association, on behalf of Superintendent Dozier and Principal Mertens, your Chief Judge Andrew Gleason, Circuit Judge Dan Emge, Judge John O'Gara, and Judge Chris Kolker, and myself, we want to thank you very much, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation.